When security is sold as a promise, freedom ceases to be a right and becomes something that has a price. The wind that surrounded that city carried none of the usual scent of the Hyborian Age. There was no excess forge smoke, no dried blood on the stones, no screams echoing through narrow alleys. What lingered was silence, a heavy, trained silence, as if every breath were calculated. High walls guarded the perimeter, watchtowers observed every angle, and armed men patrolled with almost mechanical discipline. That was not mere protection. It was containment. The streets were too clean. No heated arguments, no drunken songs, no spontaneous brawls between merchants. Even the children played as if someone were evaluating their movements. Conan walked slowly, absorbing every detail. He had seen cities destroyed by disorder, but this one was being destroyed by the absence of it. A bell rang in the center of the square. It did not announce fire or invasion, it announced remembrance. At its sound, men straightened their posture, women swallowed unfinished words, guards shifted positions. The entire city reacted as a single organism. Conan realized that no one there lived distracted. A man bumped into him and apologized before even touching the ground. Two guards appeared instantly, demanding the man show his wrist. A simple leather bracelet, marked with an engraved symbol, was presented. Only then was he released. The Cimmerian understood quickly. In that city, permission to exist was visible. In the tavern, wine was rationed with precision. No group spoke too loudly. No dice games were allowed. The innkeeper explained with unsettling naturalness that there was no need for excess there. "Here we are safe," he repeated with pride. Conan merely observed that too much safety begins to resemble a prison. The central hall was austere. Rough stone, plain wood, no ostentation. At the center, seated upon a modest throne, stood the community's leader. A fat man, thick-necked, fingers adorned with simple rings, eyes too attentive for someone who claimed to promote peace. "Welcome, here you are protected," said the leader in a controlled voice. Conan approached slowly. "Protected from what?" he asked with disarming calm. The leader spread his arms and spoke of ancient chaos, past invasions, crimes in the streets before his rule. He spoke of strict laws, mandatory registration, constant surveillance. Every family contributed tribute for the maintenance of security. Every citizen was identified. Every child learned discipline from an early age. "Now no one dies unnecessarily," he declared with conviction. Conan listened. He knew chaos, he knew burned villages, he knew children slain by men without honor, but he also knew that when fear becomes argument, control becomes permanent solution, and permanent solutions often turn into invisible chains. On a side street, a boy wept quietly, while an instructor reprimanded him for breaking a trivial rule. No shouting, only firm tone and implicit threat. Conan entered without announcing himself. Silence thickened. "The boy must learn," justified the man in the robe. "Learn to fear?" Conan replied. The instructor explained that discipline preserved lives. The Cimmerian knew that discipline without choice creates obedient servants. When Conan left holding the boy's hand, the bell rang again. Guards surrounded the street with trained efficiency. 4 men blocked the path. There were no insults, only protocol. The order was impersonal, and that made it more dangerous. The confrontation was inevitable. Conan moved with brutal precision. It was not massacre, it was message. He dropped 2 with swift blows, disarmed another with a dry twist, and held the 4th motionless with nothing but his gaze. For the first time, order met physical resistance. Brought again before the central hall, Conan faced the leader under tense eyes. The Cimmerian's sword rose slowly, pointing at the seated man. It did not touch his skin, but the cold of the blade was enough to dissolve any illusion of control. You sell fear and call it security, Conan said quietly. The leader replied that he kept the people alive. Alive is not the same as free, the barbarian answered. The words echoed through the hall like an invisible strike. The leader argued that before him there had been chaos, women taken, men killed over trivial disputes. I brought stability, he insisted. And in exchange, Conan stepped closer, you took from them the ability to choose. The silence of the guards revealed more than their words ever could. They obeyed not from conviction, but from habit. When men stopped deciding, they let others decide for them. And that, to Conan, was a slow form of death. If I fall, chaos returns, said the leader, his voice now less firm. If your order depends on knees, Conan replied, it is already rotten. Sweat slid down the man's face. Conan demanded the boy's release. He did not ask, he declared. The sword remained steady. The difference between tyranny and leadership is sometimes only the presence of someone willing to challenge it. When he left the hall, no one stopped him, not because they agreed, but because certainty had cracked. The belief that that order was inevitable had begun to crumble. Outside the walls, the boy asked if the world beyond was worse. The world is always hard, Conan answered. But hardship is not the same as prison. The road does not promise safety, it promises truth. In the days that followed, Conan taught the boy to survive, to listen to the wind, to read tracks, to trust his own instincts. He did not speak of philosophy. He spoke of reality, yet every lesson was a blow against herd mentality. Hunters sent from the city attempted to reclaim the boy. Conan faced them without speech, only action, and when they realized their authority meant nothing beyond the walls, they retreated. At night, by the fire, the boy asked if the leader had been evil. Men who begin by wanting to protect, Conan replied, can end by wanting to possess. The danger is not fearing chaos. The danger is using that fear to justify permanent control. The city would continue to exist. Perhaps it would prosper. Perhaps it would become example to others. But an invisible crack had formed, a doubt planted, and doubt is the first step toward freedom. The boy now walked with different posture, no longer bent, no longer staring at the ground. Conan realized that freeing one man is more powerful than killing 100. The Hyborian Age has always been cruel. It always will be. But between walls of fear and roads of risk, Conan chooses the road, because freedom may wound, but it never demands that you kneel to exist. And as long as there are men who remind other men that they belong only to themselves, no community built on fear will last forever.